So thank you for joining us. This is Stop Now, where we stop, listen, and share. And today we have...
This man came from New York and to Atlantic City. And at the time, I waited at the casino for him. And it was really late, about 1 o'clock in the morning by the time he got there. And I got a very bad feeling, like, get up and leave. And I tried to explain to him, I can't go with you. I have a child. But I had already told him I didn't have a support system. I had already told him everything. And at this moment, he wasn't going to leave the city without me. I was taken at gunpoint. And when I woke up, I was in New York under a bridge with a gun in my face, telling me the proper protocol in which I was going to live by. I spent 9 months in that traffic situation. I was trafficked, once again, from Atlantic City, New Jersey to New York, all the way to Miami to be sold at an auction. I know it's like, wow, is this serious? Yes, this is very real and it's very serious. And I lost a couple girls out there. And what drove me to get out was either I'm going to die like they did, or I'm going to fight like hell to get back to my child. And I did. And I faced death and on every corner, from abuse by the trafficker, from abuse by people who are purchasing me. It was a wide range of abuse. And when I finally escaped and made it back home to my son, my family, there was no recovery services. There was no counseling. There was no therapy. There was no even care. It was like everybody had already determine what happened. Oh, she's a prostitute. She was selling herself. I was a child. Someone was responsible for me. Someone was to take care of me and assist me into becoming an adult. But I didn't have that. So I couldn't even muster up the strength to even speak about the injustices I went through, or the things that I had to do. I had to endure. I had no way for documentation. All I had was the identity in which he had given me. A 17-year-old girl would now turn 18 and have to live by that identity for the next 17 years. Why? Because my family refused to help. They would refuse to help me get a birth certificate, a social security card, refused to even take me in. I went back and forth looking for where I belonged between the northern states to the south. I mean, back right from my trafficking place all the way back to New Jersey, I ran back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. I even went to the mindset of giving up my kid. And by the time I was 25, 26, I had 3 boys. No father figure. I was just out there fighting the state to maintain, and I was autonomous, which means I had to sell myself for a living. I spent 17 years in the strip club. I spent 17 years in the life. And every year I reached out to my family, to a family member, begging and crying, can you help me? Just help me get a birth certificate. Help me get anything that I can assist my children better. The answer was no. So I was stuck in a revolving cycle of disparity. And it was very bad. It wasn't until I decided to break all ties and I got closer to my spirituality. And I got to a place where, God, if I really don't want to be in this situation, I really don't want to raise my kids this way, I don't want this to happen. And I had to trust in God that he would lead the right people to my life that would direct me. I got the first job I ever had, guys. This is crazy, in distribution. I was 30 years old. I walked into the distribution company and I told them, if you ever give me one opportunity, I will supersede your expectations. In less than 3 months, I mastered the shipping and receiving, inbound, outbound. I'm the greatest forklift driver you will ever want to see because I had opportunity. I had access to opportunity to reach better. What did not break in me was a desire to overcome. I could not allow myself to sink into, I'm not worthy. I can't do it. This is all who I am going to be. I couldn't allow that for myself because I am raising young men. So I had to muster up all of the strength every day continuously. And I'm telling you guys this, trying to hold back my tears And I get emotional all the time because God is real and he is good. Because that one step to pushing me into another access to employment, access to betterment, pushed me to heights that I never knew was possible. And I spent 1 year, well, I spent 2 years in distribution, but that year I became the most sought out person. I joined the travel team. I was lit, y'all. I was going crazy. I end up meeting some people who came from Texas, and they were like, "You want to come to our side? We have the best distribution." And I was like, "I think I am." And I end up transferring from Georgia to Texas. I got here, I didn't know anything about the anti-human trafficking movement. I didn't even have a name for what happened to me. I really felt like I was kidnapped and I put myself in a position and it was my fault. I felt like I brought all of that on myself. So it was very hard for me. No support system. I went through drugs. I went through alcoholism. I went through it all. And it was only the fact that I drew away from everybody and everything and got closer to God. This job brought me into Texas where I finally would discover the anti-human trafficking movement. But it wasn't like, hey, this anti-human trafficking movement is here. No, it was because I moved into a community, an African-American community, full of the same disparities that I was used to. And I kept noticing things that were going on that I was used to. My older son, at the time, he was 17. He would bring people to my house and he would say, "Mom, help them. They need you. She's supposed to be in school and she's selling herself at the bus stop." And I would take in people. I would feed people. I would clothe people. And I would tell them what happened to me and why I was helping them. And I discovered at that moment purpose in my pain. See, I was strong enough and I endured so much, and I didn't know why I had to. I didn't know why I was carrying it. I didn't know what it was for. But now I discovered there was purpose in the pain that I can go back for others. My son ended up getting shot twice in the chest due to gun violence. It was a robbery gone bad. I was just at the store with him. I was just there 2 minutes. I was like, "Come home." He was like, I'm coming. I'll be there, Mom. Just give me a second." Next thing you know, less than 5 minutes later was a knock on my door saying, "Your son's body is on the ground." I ran down the street and I looked in a whole neighborhood of people I took care of. And I mentally and emotionally broke down. This was the day I was introduced to the anti-human trafficking movement. Somebody came to me and said, "Dominique, you have been worried so much about everybody else. You need healing." And I thought that me doing good and hiding behind this was me healing. But it wasn't until I realized there were services and resources for victims, that I wasn't alone, and that this is something serious. It's not just in Georgia, it's not just in New Jersey, it's not just in Florida, but it is a network across the United States and internationally. And I had a lot of insight on it. I jumped on so many platforms. I use my voice. I advocate for survivors and at-risk youth. I advocate for building and personal growth and development in underserved communities because I know it all too well. What led me to build Breaking Chains nonprofit organization is when my son got shot and I got introduced to the movement, I lost everything. I went into the shelter and I stayed in the shelter for 10 months. And as I was in that shelter, I graduated professional development. I spoke on every platform. I helped others the whole time, and no one knew what I was going through. More strength for the purpose in the pain. So I looked at it and I looked at the people who I was around. And I said, this is bigger than just monetary donations. This is bigger than just a little services here and there. We need to learn how to be self-sustainable. We need resources and services to build personal growth and professional development. We need access to these things to make a personal and positive impact. And many people aren't as strong as me. Many people don't have that determination and that resilience. It doesn't come gift wrapped in words. It comes in a push. It comes in a support system. It comes when you have the proper source of direction. So I stepped in and I said, you know what, God, I'm going to go back. Not just for me, but for everybody behind me, for the young people like my son. I'm going back because my pain was serious and there was others that are hurting just like me. So no, without any ado, I invest everything I do into the anti-human trafficking movement and helping other survivors. That's it in a nutshell, guys. I know it's kind of heavy and I'm sorry, but I don't want anybody to feel bad. I want you just to say, well, God is good. And no, just be aware and be active in your community as much as you can.
Wow, many questions, amazing journey. We respect your journey, and I have many questions. Let me first, just for anybody who's joining us now, Dominique, Dominique has an organization called Breaking Chains, and she's here to share her story and to tell us a little bit about her organization and what they do. I will let her summarize that. I just have a few questions first.
Go ahead.
Wow. Very shocking story, and a lot to unpack there.
Yes.
And now, how old were you when all of this started in Atlantic City?
13.
13.
Yes.
Wow. And you mentioned that you had a child. Where was the child when you were taken to New York?
When I was trafficked to New York, I took my son to a friend's house that night, and the agreement was to pick him up that Sunday. My sister had gotten custody of him. I didn't know anything about it until the trafficker told me he had spoken to my sister. My son was with my sister. And when I got back, she did have custody of him. And she wasn't willing to even give it back. She had custody of me. She was due. I hate to like make people look bad because in all respect for her, our life wasn't the best. For her as an older sister, I did expect more from her, but she had custody of me. So I was her responsibility as well. So, but she saw an opportunity to take a child and gain funds. And that's exactly what happened.
And so you mentioned that you were taken to New York. How did you end up in Miami?
Okay, when I was trafficked from Atlantic City to New York, that is where you go for protocol. He was based in New York. That's where his how can I say, his house was. His house where all of his girls were. So I was there, and you go prep for protocol. The only reason we ended up leaving New York was at that time, it was 2003. A blizzard hit New York, and the tracks. Now it's called a player. How can I give it to you in the most professional term? The game is a network across. If you are in New York, you have certain track areas where are high money areas. Florida is a high money area when it is winter in New York. So what they do is they connect pimp networks, and they trade off and they sell off different girls. You have to give something to be able to take something. You also travel in different seasons to get different money. There's different seasons for California, there's different seasons for Miami, there's different seasons for New York when it comes to making money. And they follow these seasons. So he ended up trafficking us in the winter season to Miami. The auction was held a month after I got there.
During this time, did you ever feel that you could have run away, or did you feel trapped in the situation so much that you felt like you couldn't break away? Or
well, the understanding of the situation is you get beat into protocol. I spent 3 weeks in a room where I got beat into protocol, where I was told that I was a hoe, and if the police stop you, this is what you were supposed to say. If you have to go to the hospital, and I mean absolutely have to, this is what you are going to say. You have to understand when you're a victim, but you are told that you're a prostitute. So therefore you are not a victim. You are potentially doing crimes. So the police are not there to help you. They are there to lock you up. So this is what is getting put into you. And it's not just one person watching you, it's a network of people watching you. He has tracking devices. So if you are not in place, he will be where you are. You will get whooped for not doing what you are supposed to do. You will be caged for not doing what you are supposed to do. And the many times I did try to run away, he always found me. I have got as you, if you can't tell, I do talk to the side a bit because of my jaw. It's a lot of domestic violence with a trafficker I had to go through. So at a point of me trying to run away over and over again and it not working, even reaching out to my sister, crying to her, letting her know this is not, he's not a strip club owner. He took me, he's forcing me to do things. He knew everything. Every time I made a call, he was there, everything, like, and it only led to an end up road with me being abused. So, and the end result was, well, I'm going to take you to Miami and you'll never see your son again.
You mentioned during your story there that at some point you realized that you were going to have to focus on healing yourself. Could you talk a little more about that process and starting from point A to where you are now?
It's about being honest with self. A lot of us internalize the pain, and it's so shameful that you don't even want to acknowledge it or work through it. But it seems to seep out in your life, in your everyday life, when it comes to connecting with people, connecting with yourselves, family, reconnecting in relationships. It will outpour and outburst in odd moments. And you will have multiple breakdowns. I have high anxiety. I suffer from severe post-traumatic distress disorder. So what I had to do was sit down and be honest with myself and work through it. And it starts with, hey, you are not what happened to you. That's number one. Number two, it is not your fault. Then you go through a stage of self-rediscovery. That's personal growth. Personal growth is emotional intelligence, learning about self-care, learning about triggers, learning about setting healthy boundaries and balance in your life, mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually. Once you take it and break it down and begin to work on yourself on a level type thing, on each level. I had to work on my emotions. I had to work on my mind state. I had to work on even my feelings and how I direct and reflect them on myself and other people. Because sometimes I was taking people through things that weren't for them. So I had to sit back and refrain. This is the season where I have to work on self. This is the season where I need to pay attention to self. The pain that I am carrying is not intended for me to drag along life with me, but it's to mold it and use it for my betterment, or it is going to mold me and break me down and keep me from my betterment. So I adapted a mind state of resilience, a mind state of developing instead of breaking down. And it's always a choice. A lot of us are like, I don't know where to start. Start with you. I don't care if you cry 24 hours. When you're done with that 24 hours, what's the plan? I am solution-based. I will never be a victim again to anyone or anything because I know where my boundaries are. I have emotional intelligence. I practice self-care, and I'm not just talking about burning candles. I do what I love to do, and I do it how I intended on doing it. It's not based off anyone else. I put myself in a position, even against all obstacles and adversity, to understand that there is purpose in all obstacles. An obstacle is something that is purposely put in your path to prevent you from further progress. So if your emotions is an obstacle, we must work on that. Your problems from the past is an obstacle, we must overcome it. And it's sitting down and breaking it down and being dedicated to yourself, your personal growth, your development. Where do I start? Where do I go from here? How do I get there? And I just sat down and I said it, like I told you, I was in the shelter, one of the worst. Looked at two younger sons that was 8 and 9 at the time. I said, now is the time where you focus more on being a mother than everyone else. Now is the time where you draw closer to yourself. Build on where you lack. I needed professional development, so I spent my nights going to school. Other people needed to hear from me, so I needed to get comfortable with knowing that what happened to me is nothing I needed to be ashamed about. And it was not my fault, and that there was others who need the strength So I continued to push myself to speak. And it began to show and prove that was the direction I needed to go. When you see the smile and you hear the passion in my voice now, it's because of the people I am touching. This is not benefiting me. What is benefiting me is that I'm helping others where no one helped me. How do you get there? Pick up the reins. How do you continue? Don't stop, even when it gets tough.
So you've talked a bit about the mindset and sort of the approach that you need to take, but what do you feel are some daily practices or some tools or mechanisms that people can use who are dealing with trauma or who are trying to renew themselves that they could use?
Okay, daily tools. First, start with self-care. When you get up in the morning, what is on your mind? You have to, and when you go to sleep at night, what is on your mind? My better self. Not the broken you. See, most of us we focus on the pain part, but we have to focus on the betterment. So what I do on a daily basis is center myself. I center myself to focus on what I believe in and what is best. And I continue to work forward that. If I start my day and I say, even if a cup of coffee with myself, that's a start. That's a start. I ground myself when I'm in places that I'm not comfortable with. Yep, I will sit there and look at everybody in the room and scan everybody in the room. And I got 100 multiple outcomes of what can happen. I center myself and I'm present in the moment. And I say, whatever would happen to that scared girl, it's not going to happen to the grown woman. I'm taking my power back daily. Being afraid is a choice. You also can make the choice to say, I make the choice today to be in the moment of me. I do grounding techniques. I practice self-care. I pay deep attention to who and what triggers me and why. And when I understand this person triggers me because they remind me of a person, place, or thing that is not healthy, then I evaluate my connection to this person. And then I have to evaluate how much I need to offer myself to this person, because that is interfering with my peace. That is interfering with my joy and my happiness and reminding me of something that I am not all the way completely dealt with. So I cannot entertain that. Places and things. Get into things that you have forgotten. I've forgotten how comfortable it was to sit at the ocean side and maybe just cry and pour my heart out to God. Just being able to have a moment of honesty quietly with nobody listening or trying to feed it back to someone else. A lot of us are in a cage where if I open up, it's going to hurt me more than it's going to help me. No, it's not. That's a lie. It's up to each, and it is not one cookie cutter all that fits everybody. That's why I work so hard to work on the stages: self-care, triggers, balance, setting healthy boundaries, self-rediscovery. Who am I? Not who the world wants me to be, not who my family wants to be, not what the trafficker made me, not what my abuser made me, not what my ex-husband wanted me to be, but who am I? What were my goals, dreams? What was my vision for myself before this happened? I need to go back and pick that up. I don't care if I start 1 inch of a step a day. That's where I go. Because I've over-poured so much, and I got abuse in return. So now I need to call my power back. I need to call and pour into myself. Get close to a support system. Get in alignment with those who understand what you're going through. Even if you got to find me, that's fine. Because I'm one encouraging person. Now you'll get tired of the way I'm gonna encourage you. But even if you have to reach out, journaling is a good thing. Getting it out. Getting it out. Remember, one step at a time, one day at a time.
Well said. Thank you so much. We only have a few more minutes left. So could you tell us a little more about your organization, what you guys do, and anything you'd like to share?
Yes, Breaking Chains. It's okay. Chains is with a K. at the beginning and Z at the end because the original spelling was taken. But we are a secondary care services. So after you got your medical care, after you got your mental care, we help you with your personal growth and professional development, financial literacy, career path discovery, self-rediscovery. We're helping you build yourself right back up to stand and become self-sustainable in every way. We do offer resources for emergency assistance, for housing, clothing, utilities, and food for survivors who are just now coming out. And we help you build because I like to walk along someone while they pick up the steps. I'm not going to tell you what to do, but I'm going to show you how to do it. And if you would like to get connected, it's www.breaking, BREAKINKHAIND.org.
Great. So thank you so much for that. Thank you so much for sharing your incredible, powerful story for us and all our viewers. We are in this together. Stop Now is an organization that is also battling human trafficking. So we're really thankful for you and what you do. And if there's anything else that you would like to add, let me know. If not, then we'll go ahead and end our talk.
I just wanted to thank Stop Now for bringing me on. I thank you for the work that you are also doing to combat human trafficking. I thank everybody for tuning in, and I just wish you all the best, and I will pray your strength as you continue to pray mine. If you would like to get connected, I am all the way into partnerships and continue to stay driven. Thank you for the opportunity.
All right. Thank you so much, Dominique. And thank you to all our viewers. This is Stop Now, where we stop, listen, and share. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and join us next week.
Bye now.